We continue our one-on-one interview with Senator Roy Blunt tonight. Action 12's Gretchen Bolander asks him about his amendment regarding a controversial health care mandate dealing with birth control.
Well, it requires all religious employers to provide that coverage, whether they agree with it or not. And, you know, some do and some don't. But even those who don't are beginning to step up and say, no, wait a minute, I don't have a problem with this, but there may be a health care mandate or that my faith would create a problem for me with. Maybe it's cloning, maybe it's who knows what it might be. And so the amendment that Senator Nelson from Nebraska and I offered as a bill last year in August, this is not just a reaction to the latest order. This is the fact that the Obama health care program, first time since the early 70s, didn't include the language that you could participate in government programs and still have the right to not participate in areas where your faith, your religious beliefs, or your moral conviction led you to believe that that was wrong. And it's a First Amendment case. We don't talk about contraception or blood transfusions or anything else in our legislation. We talk about the rights of conscience, the rights to be a health care provider or to be a institution that is operated by a person or an entity whose faith leads them to believe that this particular kind of health care, and I guess you'd put quotes on health care in their context, this particular procedure or kind of procedure violates their faith principles. If you do that, you really do change the character of the institution. Now, the president said, well, one, we won't apply this to the church itself, as if the work of the church is only in the four walls of the church house, as opposed to the Christian school or the Jewish daycare center or the Islamic community center or the Catholic or Christian hospital. If they no longer are able to reflect their faith values, they're really no longer the kind of institution they want to be. You know, you can't have the Christian high school and assume that the only person in that high school that has to have Christian values as a teacher or leader is the person who speaks at chapel. You know, the English teacher, the football coach, and the Supreme Court just ruled 9-0. This is a court that almost never rules 9-0 on a Lutheran school case. That no, in fact, faith-based institutions do have privileges because of the Constitution that extend beyond whatever a mere law, as opposed to the Constitution itself, might. And so this is about religious freedom, and even if you're not offended by these mandates that particularly Catholic institutions now find offensive, somewhere in your religious belief system there's something that eventually would offend you if the government can tell you you've just got to do whatever we say you're going to do, or the penalty is so much that your other option is to no longer be providing those services.
What do you see as the most important business at hand for the federal government in the coming weeks?
The most important domestic obligation of the federal government is to do what the government can do to encourage an environment where people create private sector jobs. And probably the number 2 heading under more private sector job creation would be more American energy. It's the easiest place to produce jobs because for basically 60 years we've used more energy than we could produce. We use about as much in a down economy as an up economy, so the marketplace is there. Do everything you can to connect that to an American product or even a North American product. The next best thing to us producing our own energy is buying it from our best trading partner and our closest neighbor that has a lot of energy, and that's Canada.
What's your prediction for the Republican presidential nomination?
I'm for Governor Romney. I know all 4 of these candidates very well. I went to Congress with Ron Paul when he returned to the Congress the same time I went there and served with him, know him well. I like him. Rick Santorum and I co-chaired the Religious Liberty Caucus in the House and Senate for 6 years. And I've spent lots of time with Rick Santorum. Newt Gingrich is a friend of mine. I just happen to think in the big issue that faces the country today of private sector job creation, the candidate we have that's the best equipped to deal with that is Governor Romney, and I actually continue to think he's also the most likely to win in November. And I'm not sure I care a whole lot about who the nominee is if they don't get elected. This is a big debate the one we only have not every 4 years, but about once every generation. We have a debate like we did in 1980. Who are we going to be for a long time? And I think that's what this election is all about. And essentially it boils down to, are we going to be just another European country where the government spends more of everything everybody makes and controls more of their life decisions? Are we going to continue to be a country that believes in opportunity over entitlement?